Great. So I am seeing us live on YouTube and on Facebook. And hopefully Jeff is finicking with his camera. There you are. Thank you. Just going to give this a couple minutes while Facebook alerts people. And I'm also double checking that we actually are live.
Hey, Juliet?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
I cannot hear you.
Perfect. You can't hear me anymore. Did you take off
Facebook Live? I lost your audio.
Did
Eric,
I lose you?
her?
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Do you want to try putting in your ear pods again?
Let me try something.
Okay. See, this is why I wait, Eric. Now you know why I give it a second or two. Well, while Jeff is coming back on, I'm just going to continue sharing. I see him on here.
Now I can hear you.
Awesome. See, there is a method to my madness on why I wait a little bit.
You've done this a few times.
Done this a few times. Yeah. All right. Perfect. See at least one person tuned in with us. Great. So I am going to go ahead, and it looks like everyone is fine. I see us on here. I'm done sharing. So I think Facebook is alerting people, so they're starting to hop on. I will get us kicked off. And as you start tuning in, I want to see you, and to see you, I need to see comments. Give me comments or thumbs up so I know who's on here with us. Good morning and happy Tuesday to everybody. I feel like I'm just losing track of the days, so I'm glad my calendar pops up and gives me reminders every morning. Otherwise, I'd be lost. I see with us Counselor Seymour. Good morning to you. Thank you for hopping on here and joining us on time. It is 11:02. Kudos to you for making this happen. So I will just go ahead and give you all my spiel. I'm Juliet Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. So excited to continue our live broadcast with you. And for those of you that are returning back to us, good morning and thank you for coming back on. And if you are a first-time viewer, do not make this your last. Make sure that you hit that like button, hit the follow so you can get those timely alerts and updates as we go live daily, and so that you can share the messaging and resources that are available now to you at your fingertips. Now, we are streaming this on Facebook, and we also have it streaming at the same time on our YouTube channel. That's Westminster Chamber of Commerce, where anyone that does not have an account on Facebook can also find it there. Of course, we're on Instagram and on Twitter at Westy Chamber, where we post other content and information that's a little bit more casual, a little more fun. So make sure you're engaging with us on those platforms as well. Now, these videos we've been hosting since March. You can find a slew of them on the videos tab of this Facebook page. You can also find it on our Westminster Chamber Resource Hub. And I've posted that link for you below. That's the COVID-19 update page on our Westminster Chamber page, where you can find a lot of resources, not just the video, but a lot of external links about COVID, about things that are going on in the community. Now, you've already seen me pull up comments from Counselor Seymour. I pulled up from Wayne Anderson. Good morning to you. Thank you for hopping on here. The reason I did that, I'm just going to pull them back up here. One, you should be proud of the profile picture that you have, because know that as soon as I blow it up, it gets exponentially bigger. So hopefully you have something like Rich does over here, where he's, showing his love for his wife, Shelly. But this comments feature is available to you at your fingertips, and this is a highly engaging type of video stream. So what we ask is, while our experts are sharing information with us, while they're providing us updates, that you comment with us. Let us know if you hear something that's beneficial. I also love compliments. So yesterday, people, raised me up by telling me about how much they love my Southern hairstyles. I've kept it today for you. Get those comments. Let us know what nuggets of knowledge you're picking up. More importantly, if you have questions, now is the time to ask it. This is where we want to engage with you, hear what those questions or concerns are. We'll pull them up, we'll get them answered. Can't answer it for you right now. We'll get it answered for you later, where it's transparent for anybody else that hops on. Now, that was long-winded, but I tried to shorten it as fast as I could. So if you didn't catch any of that, you can always replay or rewind it and find it afterwards on being live. So today's Tuesday, and as you know, Tuesday is featuring a business success series, and we designed this to try and support our business community by highlighting what they're doing during the time of COVID. So COVID unfolded, a lot of us were kind of freaked out. We had to adapt quickly. Some of us better than others. Some of us changed things, changed our whole operation. What is it that we did in response to COVID? How did that alter plans that we already had in place, if at all it did? And then into the future, what things are we maintaining? What things might show up, or how people can engage and support you? That's generally what our business success series is focused on. Today's topic is Uplands, and they are one of our developers that are locating a property that's here in Westminster, and I do not do them justice, so I'm going to have them both actually share with you more information about themselves, about the project, and how COVID affects them. I have with us Jeff and also Eric, and now I will mute myself and you guys can just take it away.
So I guess I'll begin. I'm Jeff Handlin. Many of you in Westminster know who I am. And, I've been the founding partner of the Uplands now for over a half decade. And we've been working in the Uplands, just so you know, for your viewers, it's a 235 acre community development at the corner of 88th and Federal. It goes from Federal and Lowell to 84th and 88th. It's right next to the Westminster Castle, which thank goodness it's going to stay exactly where it is, the old Westminster University building, along with its campus. They'll continue their educational mission there. But we, Uplands, will be developing the 235 acres adjacent to it into a traditional mixed-use neighborhood. And what is that? What is that? That is something that the city really rolled out as an archetype after projects like Bradburn, patterned after that, and some traditional neighborhoods in more historic Denver, whereas the houses are porch proud, and there's sidewalks and trees in the front as opposed to driveways and garage doors. And the garages for the units are in the alley. They're alley loaded units. That's really the distinguishing factor of a traditional neighborhood. The other distinguishing factor I'd say about Uplands as compared to the things that are built around it is it's a walkable community with a very thriving neighborhood commercial district. And though that district is designed to enhance attainable small spaces as opportunities for entrepreneurs and existing businesses in the areas that surround us. So we actually spent a lot of time talking to salon owners and pizza parlor owners and bodega owners and trying to figure out how they might fit into the fabric of our traditional mixed-use neighborhood. So I hope that helps. In the end, Uplands is going to be a rather large community. It's going to have 40 acres of public parks, including the best views out there are going to be actually public parks at 88th and Federal. I'm sorry, 84th and Federal. Apologize. And at 88th and Lowell, for example, those two corners would be really large parks. So through a system of parks, pedestrian-friendly paseos and sidewalks and walkable downtown, it does create a little bit different feel. And that's something the city really sought out and patterned for this project back in 2013 before we became involved. So we're just thrilled to be involved and following the city's template on how to develop it. And we've been involved now in the official city process for about 3 years, but really we've been involved for about 5 to 7 years in terms of studying the area, negotiating the purchase of the property, and understanding the dynamics of the surrounding neighborhoods. One of the things we realized in that venture is that we really needed someone that was more community centric on our staff that could focus on things outside of Upland's boundaries. And that's why we brought on Eric Kornacki, who has deep experience in food systems, urban agriculture, community gardens, and place-based economies. And what I mean by place-based economies, and I'll let Eric explain this in far more eloquent terms, is we're trying to use Uplands as the catalyst it should be for the areas surrounding, not only in terms of producing a system of community gardens and urban agriculture, because folks have expressed that as a need for them to save some farming components of this historic farm, but also looking at how much construction is going to take place on the Uplands, both in terms of just construction sciences, vertical and horizontal construction, which includes a lot of different businesses and subcontractors, but also horticultural sciences, installation and maintenance of landscaping. And that's where Eric has a lot of expertise in both those regards, making sure that the workforce around us is the workforce that we use to build this project, therefore strengthening the economy immediately surrounding us, as opposed to using far-flung firms. With that, I'm going to let Eric introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself. Thank
Jeff,
you.
I think you covered everything. I'm not sure I'm needed at this point, but Eric Kornacki. So I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called the Uplands Community Collective. And we, as Jeff mentioned, are focused on really leveraging the kind of historic investments that Uplands is bringing to Westminster and ensuring that the investment builds a stronger, more resilient, and more equitable local economy. And so the collective as a nonprofit is able to really kind of bring along complementary programming and also kind of push the development in a way that, and again, this wouldn't have been possible if Jeff and his team hadn't already been thinking and trying to figure out how to ensure that the Uplands project was going to have a positive community impact. Now we're able to collaborate side by side and say, whether it is construction, the nonprofit working with other nonprofit partners and training programs to ensure that we are building that workforce pipeline so that, as Jeff mentioned, houses that are built on Uplands over the next decade, that those are built by our local residents, and the maintenance of landscaping and public places, that those jobs are also, we train the workforce, we connect the workforce, and then we ensure that those jobs take place. I'm really excited to kind of look at how, and I think the question we're grappling with now is how has COVID really impacted our work? And one of the things that immediately we saw with so many businesses being foreclosed or furloughed and employees being laid off, it put such a increased pressure on our food assistance network and our safety network. And so we immediately were able to begin working with Westminster Public Schools, who was doing an extraordinary job of feeding students and their families, and being able to come in and figure out a way to support them and help provide a little more resources so that they could expand the population that they were serving. Looking at our other nonprofit food bank and food assistance and recovery partners and saying, how can we help connect dots on infrastructure or transportation, or just making sure that people are talking to each other. And so we see that COVID has really shown us a lot of the vulnerabilities within our community, within our economy, within our society. And I think that's the role of the collective, is to build and rebuild stronger relationships with neighborhoods, with neighbors, with partners, with businesses, and really say, how can we, within this given geography, create the most resilient and equitable and inclusive economy that we can? And so that's where the collective is really being able to work alongside Uplands as a traditional mixed-use development and say, let's leverage this resource and these opportunities into strengthening our community.
Thank you both for that. Sorry, I was trying to capture everything that you were saying, Eric. It was just taking me a quick second. I see Dave Eberhardt on here as well, and a couple other people that have hopped on. We have with us Jeff and Eric. Don, thank you for hopping on this morning. Don Lapp for tuning into our broadcast. Today's Business Success Series does focus on Uplands. We have with us Jeff and Eric sharing some updates on what this development project actually looks like. Jeff got us kicked off and shared kind of the proximity of that, where it's located, what intersections are there, and information as it relates to what the project looks like. I've captured a lot of that into the comment section, but this is a highly engaging type of broadcast, and I rely on you all that are tuned in to ask us any questions as well on any of the content that either Jeff or Eric have provided. Now, Eric, you touched a little bit about how you're the executive director for this, for kind of the Uplands Foundation, where you're reinvesting and you're supporting the workforce element. And I personally know through the lens, because you all have spoken to us on how exactly you have made that work with school systems and things like that. Can you go in a little bit more detail on some of the formation of that here in Westminster and what that would look like? We alluded to a little bit with the workforce pipeline and supporting the local, but if we can touch it in a little bit deeper of a level, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And one of the projects that we're currently, or partnerships that we're currently developing that we're very excited about, is with Westminster high schools. They have both a food and ag program and a culinary program. The food and ag program is teaching high school students how to cultivate horticultural plants, so landscaping type plants, but students also express an interest in wanting to move into food production year round, including hydroponic systems and aquaponic systems. Their culinary program was, I think, traditionally sort of a restaurant focused, how to give kids skill sets that they can go out and get a restaurant job. Students said that they wanted to look at the possibility of getting a food truck. And with that food truck, being able to start a business. My background and experience, I was able to plug into both of those programs and help give some advice and advisory services on the food and ag side, and then on the culinary side, and looking at this as an opportunity for students to, so you've got the culinary program trying to figure out how to operate a food truck. They're going to be working with the agriculture and horticulture students that are growing the food and saying, here's what we'd like to serve, or our recipe or menus, and what can you grow for us? And so the students are going to be able to figure out how to build two sides of a business. The community collective was able to come in and provide some connections to industry partners that we're connected with in ag science, within the indoor aquaponic and hydroponic system, as well as the culinary side of things. And we see that as we hopefully get back to normal and have more community engagement events, we're going to make sure that that food truck is at every one of our events. And so we're really going to promote it and make sure that those kids have a lot of business coming their way. Down the road, hopefully Westminster High School can help grow some of the landscaping plants that will be used to put in climate-wise, drought-tolerant landscaping plants at the Uplands project. That the farm that we're in, the food production capability that we're able to preserve through Uplands, that some of those students might be able to get internships there or apprenticeships, or even go on to help, maybe they're the paid farmer and running an actual, for-profit food and ag experience. And so really some great partnerships that the collective is able to kind of connect the dots in this local place-based ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important topic to touch on. Food insecurity is one of those. And so when you reference food and then you combine it with kind of the ag element and actually are putting in the theory and the practical application for these students, I think it speaks wonders. We've got a lot of folks that have hopped on here with us. Board Chair Brian Dice, he has come on here late, but he's sharing, I joined late. Thanks for sharing this information about the project. Thanks to Brian for hopping on. I also see Brian Head, and I see Jeff Wasden. Thank you for tuning in to our broadcast. Now, Jeff, this question is for you, and you had shared with us a little bit about the site and how this was kind of an idea or a concept or property that was out there that kind of the city was already looking to explore and bringing something to enhance it. And with COVID, how has that stopped your timeline at all with kind of the project? Where in the queue is that? And if it has stopped it, what did that look like?
Sure, thanks for the question. So before I entered it, I wanted to add a couple of things just onto Eric's answer. As usual, he's being too humble. And, some of the things that Eric has done, in particular with the high school, is he really assisted in the grant writing application for that when they received a federal grant from the U.S. government for that. And so that's a funded deal. That's a funded program now. Not that we had anything to do with it other than assist, but Eric has deep grant writing experience and he was able to assist there in addition to bringing in the industry partners he's talking about. I would also tell you, we view this as an ecosystem. So we work with the Colorado Home Building Academy, and as does Westminster High School. There is a way for us to enhance that jobs pipeline to get apprenticeships in high school so that those construction science students actually get practical application on our site and a good wage-paying job right out of high school. That's important to us as well. I just wanted to add that Eric's working on so many things at the time, right now, including an urban farm and a grocery store. What incentives can we bring to bring specialty grocers, in particular fresh food grocers, to our site or near it? Those are all things that we're working on. But I just wanted to add that. And then I'll address how COVID has affected our processing, which was your question. And, what we've done is it has affected how we approach A, processing our approvals, and B, more importantly, how we reach out and communicate with the public. So we received our first round of approvals in January. That was a comprehensive plan amendment. The next round of approvals will likely be heard late this year, maybe early next year, according to staff and management at the city. That timeline hasn't changed a whole lot in COVID. What has changed is how we've been able to interact with the public. We went from loads of small, intimate, in-person meetings over the last 3 years to over the last 6 to 7 months, we've been doing virtual town meetings of one-on-one Zoom meetings with folks, hearing their feedback. One virtual town hall meeting that we had was about 6 weeks ago, and then we had another one, Eric, about 7 to 10 days ago, that was neighborhood specific, and that was with Observatory Heights, one of our neighboring neighborhoods. That's good and bad in the sense that we're not all together, and we're not able to have that kind of interactivity. In particular, people asking us after we present or stand on the dais, they want to ask us individual questions that they're not comfortable asking in a group setting. That's what I'd say that is a drawback. But I would tell you one of the pros of this format is everybody gets their question answered. Not just give 3 minutes of commentary at the mic, but they actually get to ask a question. And then we verbally answer it on the Zoom call, on the virtual town meeting, and we follow up in writing. So anything that we didn't get to in the verbal session, we'll follow up in writing. And all of that is on our website at uplandscolorado.com. And you'll find it on our resources page if you'd like to take a look at the actual video recording of our town halls and our transcript. So that I'd say that's one of big changes in our process. The other thing I could say is we've changed quite a bit about our planning process, meaning how the project is designed and operates. Whereas before, you'll take a look at a lot of our early plans, we had a lot of small, intimate pocket parks and very few large gathering spaces. The new plan is actually has 40 acres of very large gathering spaces in groups of about 10 acres each-ish. And there's 4 of those areas throughout the project. That gives folks a little bit more social distancing opportunity, whether it's this particular pandemic or the next one. And the other thing that we've done is we've taken a really hard look at resources, not just because of COVID, but because people are spending more and more time on resources. And the resource people are talking about in Westminster right now is water. And so what we did is we went back. We knew that from the beginning, our design was specifically water conscious. The city had an allocation of water to this site, conditional upon official development plan approval in 2007. Again, in 2013, they reissued the same water budget for this site in their comp plan. And so it's been decades since the water budget's been set for this project. The difference is, what are we going to be able to do with that water budget? Whereas in prior decades or years, you probably saw some heavy sod in parks, and you probably saw quite a bit more yard space. Whereas in our design, driven by the TMUN standards passed by the city, we have much more efficient water standards, not only from on-site, in your house and in your yard, but all of the common areas. Very little of that is sod. Most of that is perennial, pollinator-friendly environment, which takes a lot of water use out of the equation. So those are a couple of things that we've peeled back and made sure that we had the data on, and to make sure that we were being responsible during COVID. One is sort of distancing, and I guess the other would be making sure that we're really responsible water users. Just so you know, the amount of water that one of our homes are going to use is less than half of a typical home in that area. And that's really critical, that we all use a little less. And I know that's a controversial matter right now on water rates. We feel for those folks that are dealing with really hyperbolic rates. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons we want to keep the costs of ownership and resource usage per home very low.
Yeah, and I think those are great points. Thank you for going in that level detail on things and kind of sharing a little bit more about your individual practices that you've implemented in here. Jeff, before we hopped on, I shared, one of the things I enjoy about this broadcast is that I like bringing different perspectives, and I want people to share their thoughts, their feelings, and we can only do that if we're all in one area where we're continuing that dialogue and furthering more. You mentioned good corporate citizenry, and I don't know if you had seen this comment or not, but this comes to us from Brian Head, and he just kind of shared, appreciate the commitment to the community, great corporate citizen. So I thought that was kind of interesting that you both said that. We did have, and I see, John Rankenberger, sorry if I'm butchering your name, John. I see also James Watt, a couple other people that have popped on here with me. John did share kind of a resource page of a group that's kind of standing on the different side of this project, and they do have a concern about the high density development proposal that you're obviously putting forward for this site that's right there off of 84th and 88th. They do reference that it's a beautiful piece of land that's open and unobstructed in the Front Range, and that the development would affect or would impact them. So, what can you speak to as it relates to that? Because, with any project, there are going to be one side and another. I'm not saying one or the other is better. I'm just wanting people that do have a different opinion, as John has shared, maybe for you to kind of come out and share, here's more information on that, try and help one another and understand each other.
Sure, no problem. Happy to do it. We are all about having informed folks in the city of Westminster and the surrounding areas. We think that in the end, accurate information is going to lead everybody to better decisions. What I would say is, in terms of the concern about density and that the fact that it's a wide open field today, which is often brought up, right, as why would we do this? The reason is that I don't know if people know this. The university actually platted that entire field once time before as a traditional mixed-use neighborhood. And they sold lots and lots and lots of lots. I guess I shouldn't say, they sold many lots to Denverites. And the deal was back then that, this is 100 years ago, that if you bought a lot, your kid got into the university for free. And so if you look at the title for this property, it's about that thick. Because then when the church bought the property from the university, they actually had to go out and buy all those individual lots back, one by one. And they reassembled this field that was a community. It goes back as far as that in terms of the city's planning for this project as a traditional mixed-use neighborhood. That was reinforced again a couple decades ago. The question is, why? Why would the city have designated this as a traditional mixed-use neighborhood with densities up to 36 units an acre? What I would say is this corridor, this Highway 36 corridor and everything around it, is the most overemployed, underhoused employment corridor in about 3 or 4 states, maybe up to 5 or 6 states, depending on which way you look at the data. What that means is lots of folks are getting jobs here, but they're driving in and driving back out. And that has a consequence. It has a consequence on the roads and infrastructure inside the city of Westminster because they're not taxpayers. They don't pay taxes inside the city. They shop for groceries and put their kids in school where they live, which is far away where they can find homes. And the city's housing needs assessment, which was put out just a few years ago, very carefully documented where the gap in housing was. And the gap in housing, there was a lot of folks that needed housing, couldn't find it. Older households and younger households principally. And what they're looking for is missing middle housing, not just something in a 3 or 5 story apartment building on one end, or a conventional single family detached home on the other. It might be something in the middle that we've really been missing for a number of decades in this area and more broadly speaking in the Denver metro. Townhomes, bungalows, cottages, smaller single family homes that are more apt to fill that need that those folks are struggling to find. That's just one reason. The other reason is that, or another factor here in the density conversation is we're allowed to do, by the city standards, around 3,800 units here. and we're building 2,350. Why? Because frankly, the sense that there's been overdevelopment in the city of Westminster is not borne out factually. The last 5 to 10 years have actually been one of the lowest growth periods and lowest production of housing units in the last 40, if not the lowest. And so I understand the frustration with development that folks have. However, we do look at the community survey, the Westminster Community Survey, the Housing Needs Assessment, and other great work products that the city of Westminster puts out. And definitively, the largest concern in this city is the lack of housing and the lack of attainable and affordable housing. So I guess that would be a reason why the city designated this as a T-MUN site. They wanted it to be mixed use and walkable, which produces less vehicle dependency. We do have an RTD site on site and then a light rail, a quick 5-minute bus ride away. All of these reasons why the city designated this as a site to include medium density. It's also really important to understand what medium density is versus high density. Downtown Westminster and Westminster Station are examples of high density developments. They're urban districts, whereas ours is a traditional mixed use neighborhood development and is medium density. It would be the difference between driving through like a Wash Park or a University Park in Denver versus driving through Lodo or downtown. They're two very different things. It's important to understand that. I hope that helps.
Thank you. And I'm all about the analogies. So I liked, especially that last part where you referenced Wash Park versus Lodo area, just to kind of give folks perspective. But, I appreciate the dialogue back and forth. I think that's the only way that anyone can really understand fully, and whether or not, people are 100% on something, that's at the end of the day, we just want them to be able to have their voice heard and hear what's available and what resources, and for you all to hear those concerns as well, because if it is something that you can implement or look at further, that's definitely something that might benefit the project more. And I see Marquez on here with us. I also see Carol that's hopped on. You mentioned, the city study and how middle housing was missing. Again, I don't know if you just are reading a lot of my comments here off to the side. Brian Dyche had shared, that you're sharing many benefits within this community approach, but that you're filling that housing inventory. But I just think that it was a coincidence. And he is a realtor and fully understands kind of the dynamic of that market. I wish I could keep going. I know that there are a lot of questions that probably come to mind. For those of you that do watch this video after we're done with the live broadcast, make sure you give us that hashtag replay. If you end up watching and you had a question but didn't feel comfortable asking it in the comment section, that's totally okay. You can DM it to us by sending it on info@westminsterchamber.biz, or just message the page. We'll get to that question for you, have an answer by our experts, and turn it over so that you can get that question taken care of. For those of you that have hopped on here toward the end, make sure that you just rewind the video and listen to both Jeff and Eric. They shared a wealth of information at the very onset. I've captured a lot of it in the comment section. Really, whenever we got to the questions, they were giving so much information that I just kind of started listening myself and stopped typing that in. So make sure that you tune in and hear a lot of the answers to those questions. Believe it or not, guys, we are at the 30-minute mark. I told you it goes by like nothing. For those of you that have hopped on and watched with us, I so enjoy the time that you take out of your day to stay informed about community projects, stay informed about business, what's going on in Westminster and the surrounding area. For us to be informed just goes a long way, especially right now during this time. It's just the prime opportunity for you to be figuring out who's who, how you can support other people, how you can support projects, etc. So I've included information about Uplands, their website, into the comment section. I've put in uplandscolorado.com. That's available for you if you have an interest in engaging with them on any of their virtual meetups that they're doing, being able to have that one-on-one time and understand more about their projects, since they kind of gave more of how did COVID affect it rather than the details. And sometimes I know you guys are analytical and you want to know as much as possible. So for those of you that tuned in, again, thank you so much for hopping on. We will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. again with another broadcast to you that gives you just as valuable information. And if there's information from this that you think other people might want to know, which hint, if I bought it on here, then other people might want to know, hit that share button and let people in your network know about this broadcast and any of the broadcasts that we have in the past. Of course, Jeff and Eric, thank you guys for hearing me and coming on here. I know I always intervene. I'm just like long-winded with my, but appreciate you guys for for staying on track, for giving some great information out to folks, and again, also for sponsoring our gala that's at the end of this month. We're excited to have that on the 25th. I hope you have a terrific day, and let's be in touch soon. Bye-bye.